Peace and respect. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religions. I'm not asleep, Harple Blues. Peace and respect, Harple Blues and Rhett. How you guys doing? Well, we're a little bit light on Macs and Zebras this morning. Although Mac did email and say I won't be able to make it, perhaps Zebra will still show up. So this may not be the show you expected. And to fill time, chapter 6 of the book of Genesis, which casually people know as the story of the Nephilim, but there's a lot to talk about here. And it came to pass, when mankind began to multiply on the face of that earth, not this one, and daughters were also born to them, that the sons of powerful beings, the powerful being, not good, Satan, sons of Satan, actually, not sons of our God, saw the daughters of men, and that they were fair to look upon, and they took them wives, which each they chose to do. And because of this, the Jehovah required, Jehovah's Spirit will not always walk alongside mankind, despite that he also has flesh. Despite that, his days shall be years of a God-elected, redeemable life. Of course, in the King James, that came out 120. But this is taking into consideration the Hebrew numerology, I'll say it that way, where these numbers represent ideas. So I think there's a lot to talk about right here, especially in consideration of the idea that we're made a little lower than angels, that the angels are, I could say something like fully evolved humans, that they are at the top of their genetics, and we are not. So this is something like Jehovah's Spirit will not always walk alongside man, despite that he also has flesh, which comes out pretty clean the same way in the King James, etc., but is greatly ignored by Christians, where it's talking about us having a limited life on this earth in spite of the fact that we have flesh. So this is saying that flesh is meant to live forever. I mean, unless, of course, you kill the animal. And we do have experience of animals that effectively do not age that are on this earth today. There's some 30 of them. The one I find most close to us genetically is, I think it's called the Northern Pacific whale. Anyway, you could just Google animals that don't age and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now they say they do age, but they say it's like negligible aging. Something like that is how they say it. But, you know, science always hedging their bets. I'm a little bit more experimental than that. I'm not actually a scientist, so I feel pretty free to say it's just, oh, hi, Big Zebra. Peace and respect, and our dying sun. Feel free to come in, Zeb, if you like. I sent you the link in 2 different places in your email. So this is simultaneously the promise that we will have a flesh that lives forever in heaven, and that we don't have a flesh that lives forever now, even though, I guess from their point of view, flesh is intended to live forever. Of course, this does make sense, that if we're separated from heaven, and oh my gosh, this cursor's acted all weird. This is the reason that there must be a decentralized population of those who would be in heaven, and those in whatever wilderness earth need hidden away and left alone as much as possible. That is divine hiddenness. We in a wilderness earth right now from their perspective. There became the fallen powerful beings in that earth in those days, and also after that, like they're still there. Because the sons of Satan knew the daughters of mankind, which means we're very genetically similar, able to interbreed. And those same women bear to them, meaning bear to them children, and the same offspring were mighty men, and were to be an everlasting secret. They left that out of the King James. Born sons of him of the notorious name. You would think they would have translated something like that into the King James, and it's evidently there, and they completely neglected the notorious name. I don't know why, other than it didn't fit what they thought the Bible was supposed to read. You're backstage now? Interesting. By gum, you are backstage. Why didn't I hear a ding?
Well,
Peace and respect.
hello.
Hi.
Are you, so you're able to hear me and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I imagine the audience is too.
I was enjoying your talk here, so would it be all right if I shut up and listened for a bit?
Yeah,
I
that's
know
okay.
that's
Just
unlike me.
speak up when something strikes you, and we'll
Okay.
talk about it, okay? And do it as often as you possibly can, okay?
Yes.
Peace and respect. Let's farm. All right, going on with that. The sons of Satan, born those of the notorious name. And Jehovah saw that the wickedness of mankind is great enough in the earth, and every imagination of the thoughts of his heart are evil continually.
Hmm. You see, this business about the sons of heaven
Yeah,
mating with human women always struck
yes.
me as pure mythology.
You know, it does sound that way. Um, Interestingly enough, although a lot of people are going to maybe even buck at this that I'm about to say, there are those on this earth who have unusual genetics,
Sure.
and it is in family lines, and it does come up every third or fourth generation where people of um, normal height and good proportions, normal proportions for a human being, like they would fit in Da Vinci's square and circle, right?
Hmm.
I think it was it Da Vinci? I'm not
The
sure about that.
Vitruvian Man was Da Vinci, yeah.
Yes, okay. What is it called? Protruvian?
I know V with a V, Vitruvian. I will
Vetruvian.
I will
Okay.
double check, look it up, and post a link.
Okay, cool. Um, which he was just making an observation about human body proportions, and he was right. Okay,
Mm.
but there are those on this planet today who do not fit in their own box. They would fit in an oblong, a wide circle, or they would fit in a slight rectangle, a wide square. But they're not a square. They're not the same height, standing as Christ crucified in the Vitruvian Man. Um, they're not the same height and width as I'm sure, Steve, you are, and I know that I am within a very
Mm.
small tolerance. But we do see where people are healthy, they do not have any kind of birth defect, and
Mm.
yet they do not, they would end up in an oval
Yes,
because of the length
Peter
of their
Dinklage,
arms.
for example.
Who?
Maybe he would. Uh, I think he would be in an oval or an
Oh,
ellipse, I should say.
oh, you're talking about a birth defect.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm
Hmm.
not talking about birth defects because birth defects, are things where peace and respect. Let's farm. Are things where what they would have been without that birth defect. They are not. They are
Right.
not example. They are not an example of what their genetics require. So that's not the same thing. We're talking about genetic predisposition toward not being. I'm going to say rudely, not being human.
Mm.
And that's what it's indicating is those that are not human. And this is the very reason why. I don't know. Do you have that linked? Yes, you do.
Yes. Did
And
you want me to
can
put that in private chat as well? Uh,
well, no, it's fine. It's fine where it is.
okay.
It's just that I have to look it up myself to share it, unless you were to share it. but I'm going to look it
Mm,
up.
yeah. Vitruvian comes from the guy who wrote the 10 books of architecture, and which was one of the things that helped the Renaissance when classical literature was rediscovered and a resurgence in the interest of of the study of Latin. Um, so it helped the Renaissance along. Pardon me, there was a terrible yawn there.
Or a really good one. Maybe not so terrible.
Mm.
Okay, going back to StreamYard and stop that screen and present this one. And DaVinci. Here we go. And what's that look like on the screen over here? That's good enough. I'm afraid I can't get it. Maybe I could get it all on there by shrinking. Commercials.
Hey, that's a lovely faucet on the right. Let's hear more about that. Oh, stainless steel fridge. Sorry, I can't
Nice.
resist. I find commercialism kind of funny. I
Okay,
mean,
so
yes,
you
it's
may
obnoxious.
notice. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, keep going. I was just meandering.
Okay,
Mm.
so you may notice another commercial. Really? Come on, quit that.
Samsung?
You done yet
No,
with the
never.
commercials? Okay, great.
So you were saying
I never
something.
buy women's shoes. Why are they giving me women's shoes? Okay, so you may notice in this drawing by Da Vinci
Mm.
that um, in the square, the man is standing with his feet flat on the ground, yeah,
Hmm.
and his arms facing out, straight out from his shoulders, and with
Mm.
palms in his hands.
Hmm.
That is to say, you can see the palms of his hands, his fingers are extended. Yeah?
Yes.
Now, he looks very much like the body position Christ crucified to
Yes,
me.
you could say that, sure.
Okay. Which is why he has to be crucified to be measured for sin, and it actually reads measured for sin
Where does it say
in a
that?
lot of the translation in the Bible.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Jesus is measured for sin, which is really interesting because there are people on this earth who don't measure this way. They would not have a square; they would have a rectangle.
Yeah, I disagree with you a bit about whether or not they're human. I would say that they are human,
Yes, of course you would.
but
Um,
because that's me.
no, no, I understand people will or should buck at that. I understand it. It's
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
Also, as a
Um,
zebra, you humans all look alike to me.
well, you're a racist, obviously,
Mm.
but that's
Yeah,
okay.
apparently, yeah.
I don't
So,
have a whole bunch of I don't have a whole bunch of empathy for zebras. I mean, I like you,
thank you.
but I'm not sure I'd cry if a lion ate you. So I don't know, man.
Oh, that's shocking.
I know it's terrible. I'm such a speciesist or racist.
I don't know
Okay,
what
so I'm just a terrible human. I'm just sorry. I I think of other animals as slaves, and that's just how I am. Um,
Mm.
okay, so to be measured for sin is to be judged. That's what the judgment is about. Is to be measured for sin. What sin? The original sin. What original sin? That the sons of demons or the sons of Satan. How to get rid of the ad? Thanks, Harple. Um,
Ad blockers. Mm. Yeah, so of course, I thought the Great Flood was to eliminate the influence of the Nephilim, so that all of their descendants were wiped out.
you're right. That's what Christians say.
They do say it. I don't know if it's true. I did read it in the Bible, but the
Well,
details escape me now.
you didn't read all of it, and Christians, when you're not, you shouldn't have to, because you're not a Bible adherent, Bible literalist Christian guy. So it's okay if you don't. But when
Hmm.
they get it wrong, that really bugs me. Peace and respect, Peter and Pope's socks. Um,
Oh, what a wonderful name, Pope Socks.
Because what it reads actually, Zebra, is that there were giants in the earth in those days
Yes,
and after that. It
really?
says, it literally, yes, you can look it up. It says, and after that. Uh, so, what are they saying? The flood didn't work? Is that it was meant to drown the Nephilim and the sinners, and it didn't work?
Could it be a bungled translation? I often
No,
wonder.
I've looked it up. It's not a
Oh, okay,
it.
thank you.
Well, okay, it's a bungled translation, yes, and the Christians think of it funny, but what it actually reads is, of course, not what the Christians profess on average. I can't say that's true of all, but I can say it's true of the ones I've met. Yeah, they neglect that even in the King James it comes out that there were giants in the earth in those days and after that and after that. So
Jesus.
what's that mean?
Well, it
It
means
means
I'm
the
going to
flood
eat
didn't
some
work.
French fries as I listen to you. That's
Peace
what
and
it
respect,
means.
Sammy. Um, I hate to step on Will, but this is our regular show. I want to go back over to Will's too as soon as we're done. Actually, argue
Mm,
with some Christians some more.
yes.
Um, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if it was meant to drown the Nephilim, it didn't work if the Nephilim are in the earth after that. Okay, however, in the reading I've adopted, it makes perfect sense because talking about a lot of people and people being saved out of that group of people. And
Mm-hmm.
who gets saved? All the sons of Noah and their wives and Noah's wife. Those all get
Okay.
saved. Okay? Now, people want to count those and go, well, look, there's 8 people. That's not the intent of the work because the sons of Noah are personality types.
Mm.
It's not a person, it's a personality type. And that makes sense very well later when he gets drunk and and one of them sees him naked. The personality types continue to work. Here's the personality
Mm.
types. The first personality type is him of conspicuous name.
Mm.
Can you guess what him of conspicuous name means?
Um, reviled?
Well, that would be conspicuous if you were reviled. True, kind of an infamy kind of thing. Yeah, that's a possibility.
A name of infamy, yeah. But I don't know.
I'll give you some clues.
Okay.
He becomes the servant to the other 2 brothers. So he's like he's selected as a singular individual where the other 2 are groups, and then he becomes the servant to the 2 groups.
Oh my God. Isn't that horrible?
Not necessarily, depends on whether or not you like it.
I don't like it. But anyway, keep going.
It's Jesus. The one who's selected who's of conspicuous meaning recognizable name.
Mm.
That's talking about Jesus. And then one personality type, let's see, it's that's Shem as in Hashem as in the name, meaning the conspicuous name. That's Shem. And then there's Ham. You'll notice that Shem is born first.
Okay.
Uh, he's the eldest, but he's the servant, which goes very well with the whole Jesus theme.
Hmm.
Ham, Ham is those who are open-minded, and Japheth means those who are hot-headed. Okay,
Ah.
so you have 2 personality types there, and I think that's true within religiosity.
Mm-hmm.
That if either a person is what the Bible would consider to be open-minded and accepting, and have a high level of agreeableness, and they become believers. And then there's hot-headed people, which are obviously the non-believers. Okay, so the story goes like this: the servant one is the one who sees the father naked. That's very biblical.
Yeah.
Um, like Adam and Eve are naked in the garden, meaning that they're like ignorant and they hide themselves and those kinds of ideas. To see the Father naked is to see the most personal parts of the Father,
Mm.
where you should call none the Father but God. So it's talking about relationship between the one of the name and his the Father whom he sees naked. You see what that's doing there? Yes, no?
I not sure that I do. He sees the Father naked, and so I suppose you could say that's symbolic of uh, Jesus being intimately familiar with every aspect of God.
There you go. There you go. Okay.
But
So go ahead.
I'm not sure. I wouldn't be
No, that's on.
confident that
That's
I could
spot
prove.
on.
Yeah. Okay.
I can show that consistently in the story. That
Mm.
no one knows the Father but through me. I'm sorry. No one knows the Father but me. No one comes through the Father but through me. All
Hmm.
of those ideas. That he's the only one who sees the Father naked, which is why you also have, like in another story, David dancing naked before heaven, before God and everybody. Yeah, that God knows him and he makes himself obvious to everyone else. That's that kind of naked, not unclothed. That's not what it means. Okay, so like Jesus knows God the Father, and in that story with Noah, the other two brothers, the hot-headed one, he doesn't go into the tent at all. Okay, but he is bare up on the shoulders of the one of conspicuous name. The hot-headed one is borne up on the shoulders
Hmm.
of the he of conspicuous name and the open-minded brother. So I could say something like it's the burden of Jesus and other believers to bear up their hot-headed brother.
Hmm.
And you just
And
go, well,
hot-headed
of
brother
course.
means unbeliever.
Yes, in this context, it's talking about people being upset, stubborn, hard to get along with, stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure why an unbeliever would be that, but fair enough. Maybe
it's
that's
it's
what was
it's a way to
associated.
color them. I don't think it's fair right now. Like I couldn't say I couldn't make a universal statement like
No.
all agnostics and atheists are hot headed. I can't make a universal statement like that right now because it's just not true, right? Um,
But fair enough. Please keep going. I'm digging it.
but if we were in the second half of end times and they'd already like met angels, oh, and they have to still be on the earth or it doesn't apply, of course. Uh,
Mm.
they've already met angels. They've already seen the seven announcing miracles. They've experienced some or most of the plagues. If you experience all the plagues, you're dead. So that wouldn't work out. But they've experienced a great deal of end times, and they're still on the earth. Would they be hot headed? Oh yeah, yeah. If they're still there, they're pissed off. Like they are not even being reasonable anymore. Um, Oh, and if they were being reasonable, they would have taken the ascension because they're watching the earth fall apart and insisting they must stay. So of course they're mad, and that would
If I
be
could
true in
make a
that.
brief shout out to 420 Atheists, glad to see you here.
Absolutely.
So anyway, it's interesting. So you've often pointed out that stories are being retold throughout the Bible
Oh yeah,
or
it's very
in
repetitive. Yeah.
religious around religious texts around the world, really.
Yeah, I
And
find it repetitive throughout all the stories. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know whether I can go so far as to uh, I, where I would get to proof of this is I don't know how I would get there. I can
Okay.
be suspicious, but I also
Well,
there's
select.
also a natural human creative instinct that as I'm reading it, I am also in a sense rewriting it, and maybe I notice this or that, and
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Noticed what? Name something specific.
Oh, let's see. There was something. Yes, there was. I remember talking about how in the Ten Commandments there's this explicit command not to make any graven image of anything
Yes.
above or on the earth, etc., etc. So,
Yes.
very well, but it does not say, well, you can make graven images, but just don't worship them, don't place them in a religious context. No, it doesn't say that. It says no graven images, period.
Right. Of what?
And then, of course, we know for a
Wait,
fact,
wait. It does qualify what you can't make them of.
well, nothing that creepeth along the ground,
No, that's
nothing.
specifically worshiping those kinds of things. That's not. Those aren't rules on what you can make and what you cannot make a graven image of.
I don't think so.
I can
I'm
show
pretty
it,
sure.
but for the sake of the conversation, let's grant it for now
Okay.
because that wasn't your actual topic.
Well, it was, you were asking me to cite an example of instances in the Bible where I might be rewriting it as I read it, and that's an
Yeah.
example. Um, I, of course, the Ten Commandments gets rewritten in a sense twice, at least in the Bible, where they are
Okay.
recounted, and there
Okay.
may be more than 10 commandments,
Well,
But
there are definitely more than 10 commandments.
yes, well, there are 613 rules that Jews must follow.
Yes.
And but sorry, I have that's what I had to say, and now I will double
I,
check and look up the Ten
I want to
Commandments.
bring you back to your original assertion, the graven image thing, right?
Yes,
Okay. So going back to that, it says what you should not make graven images of. Um,
yes, anything that is in heaven, anything that creepeth across the ground, um, uh, birds, not even zebras.
and in that, yeah, not even. Can you believe that? Not even
I
zebras.
know.
But in that reference, it's talking about worshiping an idol. It's not
Does it
talking
say
about
that?
making statues. It's we can
I
go over
don't
the
think it
text. It's a
says.
lengthy study. You're not going to want to do the study.
Okay.
Um,
Well, let's just say you're right then, that it actually says you shall not make idols of
right. It's
anything.
not talking about statues. It's fine to make statues of whatever you want, except heaven. You should never make a statue of heaven or God.
Okay.
And here's why. If you make a wrong statue, a wrong representation, it would keep people away from heaven. Because if they accept that as being true and it's wrong, you have misguided them. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I take huge risk in drawing heaven descending from the sky.
Oh, I think I found it.
Okay.
It's what says you shall not make any graven image. It gives the details about of anything that's on the earth, under the earth, in the water, in the sky. And it
Right.
says, "Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them."
Right.
And I get that, but the restriction is to not make any graven images.
No. No. Can't read half of it. That's called cherry
Yes,
picking.
no, you see, uh, well, you know what? I read it differently. If, for
Okay.
example, if God said to me, "Don't make any graven images,"
Okay.
because
Let
idolatry
me
is
tell you
bad.
why I should argue.
Okay.
Does Moses have basins, bowls, spoons, knops, candlesticks, etc., made for the temple?
I suppose so.
Okay, end of story.
But those are not
Those are
idols.
all graven images
Of what?
of like bowls and spoons and
Oh,
candlesticks and stuff.
yes, but those are. Oh, I see. I see your point. Well, then clearly I'm in the wrong, and you're right. Ever think of that? Huh? Huh?
But I'm just saying you can't have it both ways. You can't have bulls in the Temple of Solomon, and that's okay, but you can have no bulls graven ever. It doesn't work.
Well, well. Well, I will think upon it.
Okay, so I'm saying it's about not worshiping statues. And it goes into great length about that,
Mm-hmm.
saying your idols, meaning graven statues of gods, right? Things that are thought of as gods. It says your graven statues can't defend themselves. If you went to steal something off of them, they can't defend
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And I can. And they can't hear, and I can. And they can't see, and I can. And they can't speak, and I can. Like saying, I'm a living being, they're statues. And if I took it a little bit too far, I could say something like the Father is saying, come take my coat. Go ahead. Come on, bring it.
Mm.
You think you're that bad? Bring it.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Well,
that's throughout. Yeah.
yeah, sorry if I'm not commenting much. I just am not certain of anything anymore. How about that?
Well, that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
It always
Well,
was.
yeah, as you know, Socrates was probably speaking of epistemology when he said, "All I know is that I know nothing." But
Yeah.
in me, it generally applies, as to how to open a milk
That's not
carton,
true.
or
If you knew nothing, you'd be dead.
I suppose. Well, look at me. I don't even know how to sleep properly. I
I'm
literally
not sure
don't
that.
know.
Do you know what a normal sleep pattern looks like in people?
Yes.
Okay, you do know how to sleep properly. You just can't. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
So you do
Okay.
have
Well, thank you
knowledge
for
of it.
that distinction.
You don't have practicum. You're not missing the knowledge. That's not it.
Jeez, man. Okay. Oh, read Isaiah. How foolish are those who manufacture idols.
All right.
Well, what if you're in the idol making business? You could make a lot of money there.
It's not going to matter when this book actually applies. Peace and respect, Sarah. It's not going to matter when this book applies, which is not now, obviously, but
Mm,
is applicable in end times. Like, try to picture this in your head. You've met angels and you've seen the announcing miracles, and you're still on the earth, and you won't accept the ascension, right? And now the plagues begin, and you're trying to make idols. If you're trying to make idols in that situation, you're like working directly with the beast of Satan.
mm.
And if you're doing that, you're freaking wrong.
I wonder if idols could be something like sympathetic magic.
What's sympathetic magic mean?
Well, sticking pins into a voodoo doll to hurt someone 10 miles away. Um, so you put flowers at the feet of your idol god to gain his favor, you know.
Okay, that sounds like sympathetic magic. Peace and respect, Jody. Robert, yes, I'm happy for you that you're still working.
Mm.
If that's what you want to do and that makes you happy, I'm happy for you. No apologies necessary for that. Just you won't be able to interact as much because you're busy doing two things simultaneously. That's okay.
Mm.
Is it sympathetic magic? I'd say it is, and thereby false, because those things don't actually work except in the mind of the practitioner in some kind of placebo effect. Just like if you hate someone but they don't know it, you're not hurting them.
Mm. Mm.
You're only hurting yourself. Are they the one feeling the pain of your hate? No, they're
Well, in
not. I
theory,
promise.
like the Romans used to do this thing at temples where you could curse someone and you engrave it
Yeah.
on a thing of lead and throw it into a well.
Okay. Lead. They're throwing lead into the water. That's a bad
Shocking,
idea.
I know. Hmm.
It's not a good idea at all.
Mm. Pardon me, I'm eating again. I haven't eaten yet today. So,
help yourself.
my
Okay,
chance.
so what I think this overall is talking about in Noah and his three sons is Noah is the giver of rest, or the one who conducts end times. That's the time of rest, which is evident
Mm-hmm.
that people go into heaven and then they're in a state of rest or completion. And the father is the one who gives that, which is why Noah in the story is a father. And then his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, are
Mm-hmm.
Hashem and open-minded and hot-headed. So that it's true that Shem sees his father naked. That is, Jesus sees the truth about the Father. He'd have to, because he's Jesus. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have the open-minded brother of Jesus, which would be people who follow him and understand him, although they do not fully understand the Father like he does. They do understand him and they follow him. And those bear up on their shoulders their hot-headed brother. That is, it's their job to take care of the non-believer. Of course, you wouldn't expect for a non-believer to be doing the preaching about the truth of God. It would have to be a believer, so that makes good sense too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And then they are those who are responsible for convincing him of what's going on. And that's just evidently true in the text, where you have the Christ and the teachers and the 144,000 following him wherever he should go, so that they are there to convince the stragglers, if you will, who won't take the ascension. Bum, bum, bum. So it makes sense, things like, and he was drunken on the wine meaning the fruit, the fat of the grapes, people being
Mm-hmm.
the grapes, the wine meaning something like our love for each other and for God and for the Father, and he's drunken on that. And he is naked, but in his tent. He's not naked in someone else's tent because he doesn't leave heaven, right? And the only one who kind of vicariously enters the tent is Hashem, him of the name, or Christ. And then it's his job to like help everyone else adjust to the situation, which, I mean, I think it works pretty consistently throughout the text to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Sarah,
Well.
just to be honest with you, Sarah, I think that this statement here, although locally true, like the way you feel about your family and your friends and people you have contact with,
Mm-hmm.
it does manifest in relationships that we make those things manifest. Like for instance, if I love you, I'll treat you with kindness. If I'm mad at you, I'm going to treat you with malcontent. I'm gonna be mean to you or something. So it does happen, and it does happen in these people groups. But something about this means that I could influence somebody I haven't met and doesn't know who I am without any interaction, just about how I feel about them, and I don't think that's true. Now, if someone can show that to be true, then I would reconsider. But I know of no such occasion.
Hmm.
Like, I can read in a local bathroom wall, "Fuck Jesus." Suppose that hurts Jesus? I doubt it.
Probably not. It might hurt Christians, though.
Yeah, when they read it, sure. But they're local to the message. They're the
Mm-hmm.
one feeling and emoting about it, you know?
Right.
So I think it takes locality. It takes some kind of, some kind of transfer of an idea, you know? The idea not transferred is ineffectual, in my opinion, unless I'm shown otherwise. That is, without communication, it doesn't work.
Hmm. The I imagine the Bible has a lot to say about magic. I can tell you, being a Catholic,
Sure.
um, early on, I don't think they do this anymore, but they tell people not to read astrology or participate in it. Tarot card readers, psychic readings, don't do any of that.
Well, here we go. Uh, and the thief, and the whoremonger, and the liar, and
Mm.
the idolater, and all this. I think the text is talking about being an outlier in your thoughts, and it's assuming the majority is correct. So if we assume the majority is correct, then to be an outlier is to be incorrect. You see?
Mm.
So
Yes.
it's not really talking about like homosexuality per se
Mm.
or theft per se. It's talking about someone who is like not going with the correct mainstream idea. They're not following that tunnel. And because they're an outlier, they are objectively wrong because the main group is right. Now that only works when it's evident what is right. It doesn't work otherwise. I could make a universal statement like human beings eat food, but there is this group of human beings called breatharians, and yes, it's the words breathe air. Breathe Aryans, who
Yes.
they profess they don't eat food. They
Which
don't
is
even
hilarious.
well, they don't even need anything but breathing air and absorbing sunlight. This is what they say.
And
Now
water? They
that's
don't
not
drink water?
true.
Yeah.
What's that?
They don't drink water?
I don't know. Some of them do, some of them don't. Whatever. But we've put them into clinical observation
Mm-hmm.
and watch them lose weight at a very predictable rate while they don't eat food. Uh, Very predictable rate. They will lose weight. And
The
some people have tried
ultimate
to prove
diet.
it and almost killed themselves. What's that?
The ultimate diet.
Yeah, no food. You'll die. Trust me. So
Mm.
I can say that although they may or may not believe it, they may be delusional enough to think that they're a human who doesn't need food. Ooh, gross! Our dying. Yeah. Hey, don't drink y'all don't drink your urine. Your body already got rid of it as a waste one time. Why do you want to recycle a waste? Can you survive drinking your own urine for an amount of time? You can.
Sure.
But is it good for you? No. No, it's definitely not good
Well,
for you.
I like seltzer urine, and it's some ice cube.
Shaken?
Sorry, that's disgusting. I just,
Shaken or
I
stirred?
just
How do you have your urine? Uh,
Yes, James Bond. I like my urine shaken, not stirred.
the guy was really full of himself, so maybe, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm now completely distracted with this urine conversation. Jeez. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
breatharians are outliers in the group of humans because the rest of us just accept we eat food. Okay? And they may or may not really, really believe they don't need food, but we can show medically they need food. Okay? Um, and they may even be like tricking themselves by drinking enough semi-clear liquids that they survive, and they think, I never eat. I just, water, just water. Well, water is actually water and milk and juice and fruit cocktails and
Mm.
yogurt. Those are all water. Yeah. Okay. Whatever, buddy. Um, so where they can do it all the time, but they're an outlier from the truth. And in end times, referring to that, heaven parked in the sky and people refusing to take the ascension are
Mm.
are giving themselves a death sentence. Because if 30,000 people decide that they are not going to take the ascension, and they've had 7 years to change their mind, which was plenty of time, and in order that we recover the materials put on this earth, namely mercury, lead, iron, copper, zinc. There were two more. Lead and silver.
Mm.
That those metals are going to be recovered off of this earth, and in order to recover them, that is to collect them by buoyancy and then suck them out with a great big giant industrial straw, I suppose, is what heaven's going to do, something like that. They have to melt the earth.
Mm.
To get all of the iron back, you have to melt the earth. So their intention is to melt the earth. And take everything valuable off of this. The oceans, the atmosphere, the metals. They're taking their stuff back, guys. You can't stay. You will die. And if you absolutely will not leave unless someone defeated your will, which angels consider to be immoral, then essentially you've been told the situation. You've had 7 years to adjust to the situation. You meet angels who try to convince you this is the situation, and you stay anyway, even though you know they have proclaimed that the earth is going to be destroyed. That's called suicide. No one's condemning anyone. That's a suicide. Suicide by earth instead of police.
You know, it reminds me of all those times when there's a horrible forest fire encroaching on communities, and there's always one grumpus who says, "No, I'm not leaving."
I tell you, man, it's just leave. You can build another house.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
No, that's exactly the kind of person who would stay till the end of the earth. And that just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, do you realize that there's going to be people in heaven who love you? They're going to want you around? Do you realize that your children will be born back into heaven? That your grandparents, famous people, not famous people, infamous people, are all going to be there. I can't imagine wanting to miss out on that. It doesn't make sense to me.
Of course, maybe people will just be completely freaking out when the time arrives, if you know what I mean, and not being able
I
to make
imagine.
sense of it.
I imagine there's a certain kind of mind which thinks they're being sensible in a situation like that. Incidentally, against Christian exceptionalism and Christian persecution of others, what the text says about it is that those people die in the lake of fire. That is, with the crust liquid, you can't stand there. You'll die. But then comes judgment, which means they're not necessarily going to hell just because there was something crazy about them. And in a perfected state, you wouldn't have something crazy about you. You know? So then I have to say something like, I can't even tell of the 31.5 thousand mentioned, or less, that all of them are even going to hell. I can't say something like that. The text certainly doesn't say that. Only Christians say stuff like that. This is a really good. Check this out. I mean, I think Eon Monk has a pretty solid mind and brought this up for a reason. Hatred stirreth up strifes, but love covereth all sins. Well, what would that mean? That would mean that if God is love, God covers all sins. Okay, so which sins are not forgiven? Well, all of them are forgiven and covered by that love and the whole sacrifice of Christ and that whole idea, right? So what's the only sin that isn't forgiven? Well, the only sin that's unforgivable. Like you literally can't forgive it. What's that? Blasphemy of the Holy Ghost. That is denial of the existence of. Denial of existence. And that makes sense to me if heaven is parked in the sky and people are having trouble accepting it. even though it's evidently right there, that's literal, in the time, physical blasphemy. Of course, it would only apply right then. It wouldn't apply otherwise. Christians like to think that all this stuff applies constantly in all kinds of different times and stuff. I disagree. What do you think about that, Steve? You're forgiven, buddy.
Oh,
What do you think of
that's
that?
good news. Well,
And I don't mean
can't.
forgiven like feel bad about it. I mean forgiven like it never happened.
Yeah. I just, of course, what really matters is whether or not a person believes in this sort of thing or not, and I
Why?
just plain don't.
What do you
Well,
mean
then
believe
it
in it?
doesn't affect me. It might interest me, these discussions, but it doesn't lead me to believing in them. So for example, um, blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is unforgivable, but
Right.
against Jesus it's okay, against God the Father it's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
It even says that in the text. You can say whatever you
yeah.
want about Christ, doesn't matter.
Well, then you see the problem, right? So of the
Amazing. Go
Trinity,
ahead.
there's one in particular that needs a lot of respect, even from non-believers. But
Sure. But what you're not considering there is that in those days, people
mhm,
will have dreams and visions. That is the Holy Ghost. That is in their own mind. They're going to understand things because of angels in heaven praying to them and putting things in their head. And then to deny that experience in the moment is the blasphemy. Now, has that happened to you? Where you've received visions that are true in reality?
no, I've never had like
Okay,
a
then you
dream
can't you
that.
can't even blaspheme yet, Steve.
Oh, good.
You
But
can't. Which is why I laugh when Matt Dillahunty and whomever says, fuck God. And I'm just like, you all don't even understand what the hell it's talking about. You're just wasting your time, being silly.
mm, mm. Speaking of silliness, I've been enjoying writing stupid comments on YouTube videos. Not
Have
where
you?
I'm trolling. Yes, I'm not trolling in the sense I'm saying the guy who made this video is an idiot. Nothing like that. But I enjoy, especially some channels in particular.
Mm-hmm.
There's one who is, I think he's not a psychiatrist. Sorry, do you mind going on a tangent here?
Well, let's do it. Go ahead.
Okay, well, he is a therapist, but he often reviews modern events or criminal events, and he
Okay.
has this opening line where he says, "Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this." And that's because um, therapists, psychologists, and etc. are not allowed to
Of
diagnose
course.
people they've never met. So that's sort of his dodge, and but his analysis is often really interesting.
Do you
And
also watch the behavior panel?
I do a bit. I have mixed emotions about whether or not you can really tell someone's lying by analyzing a video. I mean, maybe you can, but
Well, they don't show everything that they view, and when there's
true,
limited footage to create a baseline for their assessment, they say we have limited footage. And
right?
they'll say things like this is typical or atypical of human beings. So I
You
think
know,
they're
I'm
trying to be fair about it.
yes. Well, I mean, maybe they are right. And for example, but if you're interrogating someone in a police station and he has his arms folded, he
Yeah,
could be showing his standoffish, I don't want to talk to you attitude. Or it could be that it's cold in there.
yeah,
So just because I'm not the right person to do this sort of work,
sure.
doesn't mean that I'm right in my assessment. It just means I'm a little suspicious.
Well, I'm worse than a novice. I wouldn't even call myself a novice at human body language,
Mm,
but I still find that eventually I figure out or eventually you find out by them repeatedly exposing themselves, that I can make statements early on, knowing very little about the person, that are going to flush out to be true later.
Okay.
Like, for instance, I was watching a guy talking about having lost his religion
Yes.
and his persecution of others when he was religious.
Mm.
And when he was talking about his unfair judgment and condemning of others,
Mm-hmm.
whenever he was talking about that, he was talking about himself. He was emotionally agitated, and he had a tendency to shake both legs, like he'd do this with his legs,
Weird.
alternating them, right?
Okay.
And then when he changed topics into how he became a better person and how he thought about people, his legs were just like steady still,
Mm.
right? And then when he spoke again about something that he finds offensive, the legs go back to
Yeah.
I mean, it's extremely predictable.
To my mind, suppose someone you're interviewing 10 FBI agents because you think one of them is a spy, is passing information to the Russians, but you don't know which one.
Right.
Um, would they be able to find it, or would they be able to detect that none of them are lying, and that it's got to be someone else at the FBI?
Okay. So first of all, people in like public office
Mm.
are trained to physically lie, not just verbally lie.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're told how to do this. They have handlers, and the
Mm.
handlers are literally like coaches for how they act in public, right? And just like there's the book How to Win Friends, Influence People, blah blah blah.
Yes.
It doesn't stop right there. That's not the end of it. But there are professional coaches, like on the show Behavior Panel, the British gentleman with the long blonde hair.
Yeah, he has the
Uh,
same last name as I do.
oh, I didn't know that. But let's not review that right now because that's
Mm.
kind of doxing you.
Yeah, I suppose.
That he is a public appearance coach for 4 out of the 7 of the G7. Well, what's
Yes.
that talking about? It's like he makes sure they're wearing the right tie, with the right coat, with the right background, in the right chair, holding their hands the right way,
Mm.
uh, accenting their speech when they say something important. Like you'll see people trained. Like there is nothing natural about a human being doing this. It's very unnatural to interlace
Yeah.
the fingers like that and make a nice point of your hands. Let me move it off of my face so you can see it easily. To
Yeah, I
make a
often
point with
find
your
that
hands
to be
like
an
that.
affectation.
What's that?
An affectation.
An
Uh,
affectation. Yes, you're going for an effect if that's what that means.
yeah, usually an affectation is, for example, you and I wear glasses because we need them to see, but this
Yeah.
actor is spotted around trying to wearing fake glasses so that
Sure.
he can appear more intelligent. That would be
Yeah,
an
that,
affectation.
right. And human beings' minds will naturally adopt ideas. I'm not smart because I'm wearing glasses. I have bad
Mm.
eyesight, which means I'm actually defective more than average, and that's why I'm wearing glasses, not because I'm smart. Uh,
Mm.
so this is called steepling, for instance,
Yes.
and steepling has to be done very very carefully because there's something about the human mind of the person who's doing the steepling, right?
Mm.
That if they start to lose confidence in what they're saying, they'll naturally like slowly lower their hands down,
Really?
and that looks really bad. What
Right.
you're losing your chapel, you're losing your steeple on top of your church, and that's literally what's going on there. So they're taught how to steeple and when to steeple and when it's effective and when it's not. When it's talking about like manipulating voters, stuff like
Mm.
that.
Mm.
And there's other things that I think are just absolutely true with human beings, like this thing. this thing where you go like this and you pinch your fingers like you're holding something fine.
Yeah.
People will naturally, when they're like trying to make a really fine point, they'll go like this. They'll literally make a pinching motion.
Mm.
And to our brain, when you see that, if it's done well or naturally, which it's done naturally anyway, the people are taught to imitate genuine behaviors. But when someone is doing this naturally, you're gonna go, oh, he's making his point right here. This is the crux of the argument, which is why he's doing that, right? And I'm doing it like to the extreme. I'm actually punctuating my words with my pinching. You see, like that's way over the top.
Yeah, that OK symbol, by the way, or that pension. Apparently, goddamn white supremacists have somehow appropriated that, which I found horrible.
You know what that was?
What was
This is okay, or I'm making a point, or this is my crux, right? That's what this is. Okay, but you might notice that this kind of looks like a 6. If I do it, let me see if I can line it up.
Oh,
perfectly.
okay.
This looks like a 6, right?
Yeah.
This looks like 3 6s.
Oh, okay.
It's a 666. They're being demonic. No, they're giving you the okay. Quit that crap. You're just inventing stuff.
Weird.
Yeah. And Rage says it's the white power symbol now. I don't know why. I don't know how they reckon it the white power symbol.
6 is the number of letters in Hitler's name.
Yeah.
So maybe they make a 6. You see?
My last name has 6 letters.
Yes, that's true. Maybe they're praising you.
The word Jason has 6 letters. The word raging and atheist both have 6 letters. Oh, atheist has 7.
There has been this sort of obsession with numbers in white supremacy before. For example, H is the 8th letter, so 88 means Hail Hitler. Heil Hitler.
Oh my gosh.
So they might sign their letters with 88.
You know that because they didn't have a number system, they used letters. The Hebrew people and the Jews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it makes sense that their letters have numerical values. But we have our own number system.
Yes.
By the way, 8 to the Jews means extra strong or extra fat. That's actually the same expression, like extra healthy. So it's like above perfect. So it's like it's better than perfect. Like the number 7 means perfection. The number 8 means above perfect. So you could say something like, Jesus on earth 7, Jesus ascended to heaven 8.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, that is that. Does the Kabbalah?
Yes,
no,
gematria.
The Kabbalah
What's that?
relate to numerology? Is that what it's all about?
Does the Kabbalah relate to numerology?
Yeah, is it
gematria is definitely. I think gematria is definitely Kabbalah, but it's not only gematria. There's other stuff too. I think. I've never studied it. I've only heard people talk about it. I don't know much.
Yeah, you shouldn't look at it because Madonna thinks it's great. So that says something about it.
Who thinks it's great?
Madonna.
Well, I take very little of my life advice from professional singers.
Yes, a good point.
Because they're professional singers. And they're good at that.
Yes. Isn't that great?
I really appreciate the artwork of artists. But, unless they show some especially high aptitude for, like, psychology, I'm not taking their advice on how to treat people. Mathematically speaking, 6 is the perfect number, but not in gematria. 6
What is gematria?
It's the Jewish way of doing it.
Oh, you mean of numbers? And
yeah, what I was just talking about, how 7 means perfection, that's Hebrew into Jewish gematria. It pre-existed their religion.
Hmm. How do you spell that? I'd like to look that up. Gematria.
I am not really certain.
Oh,
Somebody in our
someone
chat
spelled it
spelled it
for us here.
GEM.
Okay. Gematria. The practice of assigning a numerical value to a name, word, or phrase. The
Or a letter. It
That's
has to
what
be a
that
letter
book,
too,
The
or it won't
Bible
work.
Code, was about. It's really
Is that what
hilarious.
Bible code is about? No.
Sure it is.
What do you mean? Which
Well,
Bible code?
oh, actually, I've got it kind of wrong. Yeah, you're right.
The
It's not
one
real.
called Bible code is about doing the Torah as an acrostic
Yes.
and finding whatever the hell you want,
Yes.
which I think it's just bad thinking altogether because
Mm.
you can find anything you want there.
Well, somebody looked up Pamela Anderson and found
She's in the
things like,
Bible, sure.
yeah, sure, in a diagonal that goes from right to left somewhere or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So is the phrase Dr. Josh Bowen is the Messiah. That's in there.
Really? Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I always suspected him of being the
Which is
Messiah.
which is weird because he's an irreligious guy. And he doesn't even believe in God. So
No, no. Well, maybe God has some task for him that awaits.
maybe
Excuse
maybe that whole method of Bible code doesn't work and you can find anything you want. Maybe that's the answer.
Yes.
That's
Of
what I'm
course, I
thinking.
can't read the Bible, so I can't
Funny enough,
find.
he did that. It showed up in 2 pages. Like the
Really?
pages were connected. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, he's got to have an explanation for it, damn it.
Well, he bought the software and he plugged that phrase in. That's the
Yeah.
explanation. It's just everything's there. Everything. Because it's a language, which is like a mathematical form. So it's
Mm.
like instead of having Hebrew letters, what if you had the actual numbers 1 through, what do they have, 20, 26 letters in their alphabet, or 24, 22, I don't care.
Mm.
And you had numbers 1 through 22, right?
Mm.
In an absolutely random acrostic, right? Could you find the number sequence your birthday? Yeah.
Mm.
It's gonna
I
of
bet.
course you can.
The thing is that it's the Bible code's so-called potency was found that if you typed in, say, the name of a politician, you might see some of their policies around their name. I'm making that example up, but
Okay. Well, I tell
so
you what, if that went on enough, I'd actually find it persuasive.
mm,
You know, let's say for instance, I looked up the name Joe Biden, right?
yes,
And then I got Joe Biden in one continuous line, and say it was like at an angle or something, right?
hmm
But you know, in order to make that straight line, it's actually only every fourth line,
mm,
right, going up and down from the center of it spells out Joe Biden, right?
mm.
And then around Joe Biden at the opposite angle was Donald Trump.
Aha,
And and then on the Donald Trump line were radiants coming from that with his policies and radiants from the Joe Biden line of his policies, and altogether it made like a pinwheel. I'd be going,
okay.
"Holy crap, that's valuable." But I don't ever see something like that.
And inevitably, if someone were to take a look, well, Joe Biden's name crosses with Donald Trump, and it turns out that the name isn't really Donald Trump and doesn't really sound like Donald Trump,
Yeah.
and it goes on and on.
Yeah, they're always making this exception, that exception, that exception, and it was
I think
close.
so.
And I'm not
Uh,
persuaded.
okay, I have to save this podcast here. Where? There it is. Okay. It's not a
Broker of
podcast.
peace, you are blocked from where?
Blocked from the kingdom of heaven. That'll
No,
line
you're
me.
not. Nobody's blocked from the kingdom of heaven. Nobody. I
I
mean,
can say he is.
you can say it. You'll just be wrong. I mean, it's okay to be wrong.
Yes.
Um, Let's see. Pi is a magical number. Any and all books ever written and to be written is contained in it. That's the
I
idea of an infinite, yeah.
well, with pi, um, well, first of all, it would be a book that only had 10 letters in it, unless 11. If two ones together counts as a new letter.
What?
But pi is just a number that can't be expressed as a fraction. And it's transcendental too, I think, is another way of saying it, where because pi is infinite, it never reaches a final digit.
Yeah, that's the idea. I don't know that that's true or not. I mean,
Oh,
I
you
just
mean there
don't know.
might be a value for pi where it
There
ends
might be
in
an end of
zero?
pi. I don't know.
Right.
But for
Mm.
now, for us right now, it looks like it doesn't actually end. It just keeps getting, 1/10 smaller every digit forever.
Which is really annoying.
Not 1/10 smaller, 1/10 the last value, not 1/10 smaller.
No. But
Sorry, I said that
I know what you
poorly.
mean. It's hard to describe certain things in English. That's why we give words like there's an imaginary number line, there are transcendental numbers, there's blah, 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 blah. Rational. I think that's the word. Is pi
Rational and
irrational?
irrational. Yeah.
Okay. It's an irrational number.
Yeah.
And is it transcendental or transcendental? There it is. Someone else asked this question before me. The
Yeah.
number pi. Okay, I think it's pi because it's irrational because it can't be expressed as a fraction, and it's
Right.
transcendental because it never ends.
That makes sense. No, those are fine assertions.
I don't allow me to uh, be the final word on such things. I'm just going by memory and a quick lookup on the Google
Well,
machine.
I already agree that that's how it looks to us right now, as far as we can tell, and it
Yeah.
may be true. I don't know.
Mm, mm. Maybe if our universe really does have 11 dimensions, and you were able to calculate pi with that in mind, maybe it would be an even number, a rational number.
You're out of my field, man.
Me
Like
too. I'm out of my
that's
field. I
that's not
guarantee.
even in the parking lot around my field.
Well, it's an odd notion that I just came up with on the spot, which means probably not valid. It could be complete
Or you could be
bullshit.
brilliant and not know it, and you're actually right. I'm not sure.
I have no reason to think I'm right. By the way, I like that comedy club brick wall behind her.
Yeah, I do too, actually.
It's actually quite pleasant. I like the colors.
It reminds
There
me
we
of
go.
Halloween.
Really?
Yeah,
Brick walls remind you of, oh, because they're sort of orange and black.
yeah.
Okay.
Which
Hey,
I
if
like
it's
Halloween.
okay, I think I'm going to turn off my computer now. But it's been real.
Okay.
I want you
All
to
right,
know
man.
it's been real.
Thanks for your
I
input.
Oh,
If you have thoughts about it later, we'll talk about it next week.
okie dokie, Smokey. Bye for
All
now.
right, man. Well, guys,
Ah,
I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I don't even have a zebra anymore. I'm zebraless. I'm dezebraed, if that's a word. Thanks for all you guys for showing up. I appreciate it. For those inside chat, thank you especially for signing in and commenting and stuff. Appreciate that. For those of you who are viewing who didn't, I appreciate you as well. I want you all to know that I look forward to the day that we're all great friends. Till next time.